One Thursday in LA, I sprayed butt glue on my swim bottoms before taking the stage on national television in a bikini, representing my home state as Miss Michigan USA. Coming out of commercial break, I was the 8th name to be called into the top 15. Growing up, Miss USA was like the Super Bowl in my house. It would be on every TV screen, and the true test was even my dad knew what was going on. Upon finishing my exams my first year of my master's at Stanford, I booked a one-way ticket to LAX for the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to compete and become Miss USA. Each time I stepped on stage and I saw that camera and red dot, I knew that I was already achieving my wildest childhood dream. And on the other side of that camera sat potentially thousands of the younger versions of myself. A young brown girl growing up in the Midwest with a vast imagination and the strongest conviction to pack her bags, leave her hometown, and chase her dreams. As the competition progressed, we went from 50 young ladies to 20 to 10, then 5, and by the end of the telecast, there were 3 of us left, one of them being me. As I heard the second runner-up's name called, I literally whispered to myself, "Oh my gosh." Walking to center stage, holding Miss Kentucky's hand, I made eye contact with one last person, my mom, sitting front row, holding back tears. They play this really ominous music, and the lights begin to dim. I took a deep breath. I closed my eyes, and I waited my fate from the host's announcement. Miss USA 2024 is Michigan. In that moment, my legs quite literally gave out. I luckily popped back up because I remembered there was a slit in my dress. I couldn't quite grasp the concept of achieving the very thing I set out to do when I was 7 years old. And amidst the craziest emotions, I knew that that moment was so much bigger than myself. You see, being crowned Miss USA directly dismantled every person who tells women and young girls that excellence only comes in one form or flavor, or that even it's a one-size-fits-all. That was not a personal win. It challenged what people can believe excellence looks like on that stage and beyond. That night, my mentor is in the crowd. She's a mom, a full-bird colonel in the United States Army, and a department head at the United States Military Academy, my alma mater. That night, I not only became the first Afro-Latina woman to ever win, but I became the first active-duty Army officer to ever win Miss USA. As a cadet at the Academy, I never saw myself in the rooms I was in. And I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know if that was by design. The rigid structure, the uniformity, the service component, the academics, it all scratched and itched my mind, and I knew I had to be there. I grew up with a dad who served 24 years in the Army, retired as a combat arms veteran. My household was literally the Army values. When I think about being a cadet, I remember facing a test every day, not just of endurance, but of whether I could stay whole. This caused me to doubt the role that different pieces of my identity played in my life, both personally and professionally. After facing recurring spells of doubt at the Academy, I began to rely on the concept that if I cannot see it, I must become it. And when I took my first walk on stage as Miss USA, flowers in hand, sobbing, I knew that my success came not from choosing between pieces of my identity, but actually refusing to abandon any of them. And there's been research on this. According to Lean In and McKinsey, 1 in 4 women actually face pressure to downplay aspects of their identity. Psychological research on identity integration shows that people who experience this often feel higher stress levels, lower workplace belonging, and are at greater risk for burnout. This has been the story of my life. Growing up, I would beg my mom to take me to the dress section in Target, only to return home the next day with grass stains and holes in my tights because I played soccer with the boys. Or even when I signed up for my first pageant. I was 7 years old, my mom was my coach. I was extremely rough on the edges. And my dress was from the bridal shop in town, the clearance rack, and I won the whole thing. I remember thinking to myself, I cannot be alone in this. By show of hands, how many of you feel like there are aspects of your identity that you've even been told or you feel as though should not coexist? I'll give you a few examples. Maybe you're the computer scientist who loves art. Or you're the guy or gal who can outrun anyone in the gym, yet for no reason at all will dress up in your best attire to go run groceries. That's me. Or maybe it's something you've never quite had the words for. All you know is that you don't fit in a box. Show of hands. For many people, this can be crippling. But for me, it's been my superpower, and I want to help you unlock yours today. I like to call mine my grit and my glamour. Now, grit and glamour truly came to fruition when I was a sophomore at the academy. It was COVID. We were in isolation. We couldn't leave campus. We could barely even enter each other's rooms without a mask on. And it was also marked by my toughest academic quarter to date. I had 23 credit hours. I was the only female math major in my grade. So my life was mathematical proofs, coding, and a class by the name of survival swim. So not only was I drowning in academic work, I was literally drowning in the cadet pool. Each Friday, I clung to my sole form of feminine expression. The $20 gel nail kit that I bought on Amazon the summer before returning for my sophomore year of classes at West Point. Every other Friday, I would paint the sheerest coat of pink nail polish on my nails, file them down square and short. One day while working in the library, an upperclassman cadet, a female, had walked by while I was working on my coding homework, because even if my code was broken, I knew my nails were gonna look good. She walked by and she did a double take, and to be honest, I thought I was in trouble. I thought I was breaking a rule. She pulled down her mask and she said, "Girl, where did you get your nails done?" I told her I did them myself, and she kindly asked if I would paint her nails before 100th night, which is the ceremonial dinner held every year for the senior class, marking 100 nights before they graduate and commission into the United States Army. Moments like this were not rebellion, and it really wasn't about nails. It was about self-definition and refusing to disappear. Experiences like this made me begin to think, what would a life and a world look like for each of us, where we not only coexisted in our duality, but we actually thrived in it? I'll give you the first. Always be the first to bet on yourself. Write that email, submit that application, text your crush. I don't know what came to mind for you when I said bet on yourself, but do that thing. I think back to telling my friends on my volleyball team that I was going to go to West Point. They laughed, scuffed, and told me that they would see me at Michigan State in 2 years. Or when I called home to tell my parents I was going to be a mathematical science major, despite knowing that I needed a tutor to pass high school pre-calculus. Stop closing the door on yourself before the world even gets the chance to. So try once before you self-reject. The next, bring your full self to the room. And I truly mean all of it. Throughout my year as Miss USA, I treated the classroom of 20 just the same as the stadium of 2,000. Today, my social media messages overflow with notes of inspiration and even people telling me that they chose to go to West Point because of my atypical journey. Some of the most beautiful moments during my year were marked by either a witty comeback to a middle school kid in the back or a small high five to a young girl sitting in the front row. The greatest moment of my year was in Denver, Colorado, after visiting 3 of the largest high schools in the district. My night ended at 7 p.m. visiting a workshop for Girls Inc., where 40 young girls between the ages of 6 to 8 eagerly sat waiting to hear from me. My team parked the car, I hopped out of the van in my uniform holding my sash, and before I could even introduce myself to the classroom, a young girl in the back raised her hand and said, "Can you show us your moves?" Having never been asked that before in a classroom presentation, I said, "Oh, like my dance moves?" Amidst 40 young chuckles, I thought back to some of my first weeks at the academy, when the upperclassmen teach us all how to salute. I asked all of the girls to stand up and to show me their right hand. And after giving everyone a couple beats to get on the same page, I said, make a pancake with your hand and place your middle finger on your eyebrow. That moment, I looked out at 40 really big smiles and 40 tiny salutes. That classroom didn't need a stage. It needed proof that their dreams are possible. Throughout my year as Miss USA, many questioned if I would even last. The organization had gone through a very tumultuous time for 2 years in a row, and my time as Miss USA, 95% of it was in a uniform, speaking to young girls like those at Girls Inc., students all across the country, about going to West Point, choosing to study math, being Miss USA, being a Knight Hennessy Scholar. If you choose to edit yourself in the rooms you walk in, you risk potentially impacting lives. Lastly, learn to hold both without apology. In many ways, my time as Miss USA was strikingly similar to my experience at West Point. I found resolve in my grit, and I found relief in my glamour. So many points in my life, people have expected me to do one thing, yet my ambition, tenacity, a little bit of a delusion allowed me to achieve another. So as I close, I leave you with this. Bring your full self to the room. Bet on yourself. And let's all have the courage to exist in our duality together. Because if you refuse to exist as your full self, you risk leading a life that looks impressive on the outside, but feels dull and unfulfilling on the inside. And while it will forever be an honor to be the 73rd Miss USA, the greatest honor that you or I will ever hold is being the one and only you. And when the curtains closed and it was all said and done, I knew that I didn't win despite my layers. I won because of them. Thank you.